Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're asking a question that has honestly haunted sports fans for decades. Is it actually possible to mathematically predict the outcome of the 2026 World Cup? We're basically pitting cold, calculated data science against the unpredictable magic of the beautiful game, just to see what happens when hard numbers meet the pitch.
To set the stage, Arrigo Sacchi, the legendary Italian manager, once said that football is the most important of the least important things in life. And he completely hit the nail on the head. He totally got that soccer is driven by emotion, human error, and these sudden moments of sheer brilliance. But today, we're going to challenge that romantic notion with some serious math.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover predicting the World Cup, building the statistical model, Spain and the other favorites, zoom in on Japan as a dark horse, and finally look at betting the bracket. Let's get right into it.
Part 1. Predicting the World Cup and the data science of soccer.
So, to figure this out, we're looking at a massive statistical framework built by the research team at Goldman Sachs. At its core, the model treats the number of goals scored in almost 20,000 mandatory international matches, going all the way back to 1978, as a Poisson distribution. I know that sounds like heavy math, but essentially it's just a statistical way of showing the probability of a certain number of goals happening in a fixed window of time. The model uses decades of historical data to figure out a baseline expectation for every single team.
Moving to part 2, building the statistical model, beyond just goals.
Because, let's be real, historical goals just aren't enough for a totally accurate prediction. The model builds on that baseline with several external variables. After all, a match played in London in November is a completely different beast than a match played in Mexico in June. The absolute most vital variable here is a team's ELO rating. It combines that with scoring talent, meaning how many players does a team have in the top 50 scores of the major European leagues. From there, it layers in momentum, mentality, and super-specific geographic factors like temperature and stadium altitude.
Now, you might be wondering about that ELO rating. It was originally made for chess players, and it differs a bit from your standard FIFA rankings. It's much more dynamic because it evolves constantly based on the strength of your actual opponents. And what's wild is that the ELO system crowns Spain as the absolute statistical peak, putting them firmly ahead of the traditional FIFA favorites.
What's really fascinating here is how the model mathematically penalizes teams for specific hurdles. Playing in high-altitude spots like Mexico City, that's a huge drag on expected goals. It also quantifies something called the winner's slump. Basically, there's a proven historical underperformance of reigning champions in their next World Cup. So, sorry Argentina.
Part 3, Spain and the favorites, and who the math actually crowns. When you apply all those complex variables into 50,000 Monte Carlo simulations, the results are pretty wild. The model projects that Spain has a dominant 26% probability of lifting the trophy. In a 48-team tournament, that is absolutely massive. They're followed by France at 19%, Argentina at 14%, Brazil at 8%, and, maybe unsurprisingly to some of you, England is lagging behind at just 5%.
This data brilliantly illustrates why certain heavy hitters falter. Argentina, for example, takes a massive statistical hit purely because of that winner's slump we just talked about. Meanwhile, England's chances are dragged way down by historical tournament underperformance, plus some brutal geographic headwinds. They are mathematically likely to struggle with the altitude and heat of their predicted path.
Following the predicted knockout bracket, this whole simulation builds toward a huge finalissima in New York. The Goldman Sachs model simulates the entire path and projects a semifinal clash of European and South American heavyweights, with Spain ultimately predicted to take down Argentina in the final.
Part 4. Japan as the dark horse, moving from theory to practice.
So, we've got the macro view and the statistical giants, but how does a highly rated Asian dark horse like Japan, sitting at 55-1 outright odds with the bookmakers, actually stack up in reality against a powerhouse like Spain? To figure that out, we have to step away from pure data and talk tactics, history, and raw human resilience.
Historically, Japan is incredibly consistent. I mean, they've qualified for every single tournament since 1998. But, their ceiling has stubbornly stayed right at the round of 16. That even includes a spectacular 2022 run where they remarkably topped a group with Germany and Spain, only to suffer a heartbreaking exit on penalties. To finally shatter that ceiling, they rely on a very specific system. Under manager Hajime Moriyasu, they use a dynamic 3-4-2-1 formation. It is built entirely around an intensely aggressive high press to disrupt heavier, slower opponents.
This system is spearheaded by the creative brilliance of Takefusa Kubo and anchored by really solid young talent like their goalkeeper Zion Suzuki.
But here's the thing. Predictive models can't exactly forecast the human element, like sudden injuries. With their star Koru Mitoma out with a hamstring injury and Takumi Minamino absent as well, Japan's margin for error in the final third shrinks drastically. The creative burden shifts massively onto Kubo, and that right there is exactly where the math crashes into messy reality.
Part 5. Betting the bracket and finding true value.
With the macro math and the micro tactics established, where's the actual evidence-backed value in the betting markets? Well, Japan sits at highly attractive 5-2 odds to win Group F. Sure, the Netherlands are the group favorites, but if the Dutch slip up in their opening match in Dallas against Japan's relentless high press, suddenly topping the group becomes a very realistic, mathematically sound scenario for our dark horse.
This is where we separate emotional betting from analytical prediction. The folks at Total Football Analysis suggest the smartest angle isn't just throwing money at that 55-1 outright win. Instead, it's backing Japan to finally break their historic curse and reach the quarterfinals. It perfectly balances their proven quality against elite nations with the realistic limits of their current squad depth.
So, I'm going to leave you with this question. Will the cold, calculated math of 50,000 Goldman Sachs simulations dictate the 2026 World Cup? Or will the unpredictable passion, tactical bravery, and pure heart of a dark horse like Japan crown a totally new king? The data draws the map, for sure, but the players actually have to walk the path. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to decode the world around us.